This week's blog post is the third in my series on Naumkeag. For more on Naumkeag, see the first post in the series. Ventfort on the right and the Mount on the lower left, two nearby Berkshire cottages, went through many hands before they became museums. Much of their woodwork, walls, and finishes have been reconstructed, and many of their furnishings are later donations or purchases. But Naumkeag was owned by the Choates until 1958, when Mabel Choate, who had redesigned many of the gardens with landscape architect Fletcher Steele, bequeathed the mansion and all of its contents to the trustees of reservations. The house remains very much as it was when the Choates lived there. For those of us who like knowing where we are, this is a plan of the first floor. This is the main entrance. There's a straight pathway through to the covered porch, which has a view of the Berkshires on the west side of the house. This is the south and west side. We were looking at the gardens over here. The library is the room nearest to the afternoon garden, which we saw last week. It's the place with the Venetian gondola poles. As an avid reader and an author, I love houses where there are so many books they get their own room. This is a view west from inside the house. On the left is part of the foyer, which runs from the covered carriage entrance on the east side of the house across to the west side of the house. There are wooden floors beneath this protective matting. And on the right is the parlor and drawing room, which is on the corner with one of the turrets. The foyer was designed by McCain, Mead & White to evoke a medieval hall. The dark colors that they used at Naumkeag are part of the reason I would rather live in Edith Wharton's The Mount, but I can appreciate the workmanship of this bench, for instance. And yes, I know staircases are largely wasted space and difficult to keep, but this one is so lovely. It reminds me of the McKim, Mead & White stair hall that's reconstructed at the Metropolitan Museum. Look at the woodwork up here. That's just marvelous. And on the right is the dining room, which has views out over the Berkshires. So when the sun was setting, you could have dinner and watch it. On the left is the schoolroom. The proportions and the size and the way the windows are framed just make me very happy. And on the right is Joseph Choate's study. He was a lawyer, which is in one of the other turrets. This is the second floor, which wasn't open to the public when I visited in 2020. Fletcher Steele, the landscape architect, was at Naumkeag so often that he had his own guest room right here. A word on why I'm doing this series. Back in the summer of 2020, when most museums were still in lockdown or requiring masks, my husband and I discovered the pleasures of spending time in elaborate, exquisitely planned gardens. Our first excursion was to the Berkshires in western Massachusetts, where we visited the Gilded Age mansions of Naumkeag, Ventfort, and the Mount. I originally shared photos on Facebook, but I prefer to have my photos on my own website. I've already shifted Ventfort, and the Mount will be following soon. If you want to see more of my posts on Gilded Age mansions, the URL is at the bottom of the slide. DianeDuranteWriter.com has hundreds of posts on sculpture, painting, architecture, and my other obsessions. To join the Sunday Recommendations email list, visit the URL that's on the screen or email me. And you can say, "Well done, Diane," or support my work and receive rewards by means of the tip jar on DianeDuranteWriter.com. As always, thank you for listening.